This time, I'd like to call the May 1st meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District Committee meeting to order at 10 a.m. The machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect we have three members present. Mr. Bartholomew is en route. And at this time, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This machine works good. Thanks, everyone, for being here. At this time, we'll move to item 2.
Chairman's comments.
I don't have any updates, but I will yield my time to the Port Administration, and I believe they want to speak briefly on the Civil Service Commission meeting last night, so I would yield my time to Ms. Riley or Ms. Nielsen.
Good morning.
Look, I'm sorry. Cue in. Now hit the button. Hold on. Press the button again. There we go. You ready?
I'm on now. Okay. Good morning. Yesterday evening, I attended the Civil Service Commission meeting regarding the pay plan issue that has recently come up and has the port employee raises, merit increases on hold as of now. Last night, the board did suggest a solution to the issue. I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you guys soon. I'll let them explain their ideas, findings, and what they're actually suggesting, which is what I got from it was a merit increase along with a 3% increase at a June 30th date. That's what was suggested last night. Like I said, again, they can get with you on the details and on PPG's financial capabilities of that. What I did speak with Paul and Christy and Mr. Sanders about is the port's solution to this issue, because like I said, the port's employee raises are basically on hold due to the issue with the pay plan. And one thing I suggested was that the port would adopt its own pay plan separate from the PPG's pay plan. It will not in any way remove civil service. It just has a cleaner administration function when it comes to the actual pay plan with port employees versus parish employees. And that was basically wrapped up kind of what they did last night regarding the pay plan. They basically suggested a solution and said that they would be getting with the parish council.
Okay. So basically, I think we mentioned this at the last meeting, that the two are lumped together, and the 3% that Ms. Salvant introduced for the cost of living has kind of got things locked up on both sides until President Cormier makes a decision.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And if I heard you correctly, he's offering a 3% cost of living and a 3% merit?
Yesterday they discussed what PPG could financially do as far as budget and what they had funding for. So they didn't get too much into detail as their calculations and how they came about with this. That's why I said you can get with the commission and their counsel, their legal counsel, as far as what backup they have for this suggestion. But I know they mentioned doing a merit increase and a cost of living raise at a later date, which would be like June 30th, he said, a half of a year. Now, again, they did not go into details on calculations and how they came up with this solution, but that's what they were proposing. And they did mention, we would have to talk with administration and Plaquemines Parish Council, and all of that. But that was their suggestion to the problem. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't solve the port issue that we have here, that issues with PPG and its administration when it comes to the pay plan. As long as we're in that same pay plan, we will always be basically held up by their decision.
Okay, so one solution would be to create a new pay plan within civil service, right? And I believe at the last meeting, the second option would be to follow the state civil service plan as other ports. That would be the two options.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, I have no,
All of the port's job descriptions have been separated already and revised specific to port operations. And all of our positions are allocated specifically under port. So I think, it would be an easy separation for the pay plan.
Mr. Lapine?
Chair, you mentioned that that we may try to separate the pay plan of the port. Is that allowable by the commission, or what is the mechanism of how we do that? They have to vote on that, or we present a plan to them?
I'm not exactly sure as the process of going through it. I didn't want to mention it at the meeting last night without first bringing it to the administration, which is we had discussed it, but also the port board. I didn't feel that I should have suggested that issue there at the time. So nothing has been mentioned to them regarding it. Right. We're here today discussing whether or not we would like to pursue that route.
So nothing was mentioned. That's why I want to make sure.
No, nothing was mentioned. I basically just was there. I took notes and I observed, basically how it was going to go about, and if anything, if it would help the port in any way. But we're basically still at a standstill with raises because nothing has been done on the parish side.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to tell the board and the audience, we didn't just wet our finger and stick it in the air and say, this is what we propose. We had a third party look at our job descriptions. These guys' job descriptions have greatly been enhanced due to things that have come about, such as Homeland Security, their additional training that they had to get. And so they were doing a lot more that wasn't in their current job description. So when we updated those job descriptions based on what their actual duties were, then that is what prompted the raises.
And Commissioner Lapine, just to clearly answer your question, who can make the move or make the decision? Based on the establishment of the port, Louisiana Revised Statutes Title 34, at the end of the day, it's the board's decision as the governing authority on what pay plan we use.
Okay.
Ms. Salvant?
Am I on?
Yes, ma'am. I got us all mic'd up.
Okay. The only comment I would have about the whole situation is that a real conversation needs to take place. Because first of all, how are we going to address the situation whereas the port still, as far as the charter goes, even though the port is operating as a separate entity, but as far as the charter, that you still falling under the auspices of the government. So I'm trying to establish, and I too have a problem with what Ms. Williams alluded to. I didn't attend the meeting last night, but my legislation was specifically for a cost of living raise, and somehow we got changed into a merit raise. And here you are talking about an additional raise. Civil Service is talking about implementing an additional raise when some folks have already received a raise, others haven't. So, back to my original statement, a real conversation needs to take place before we can move forward on a lot of these different components. First we have to establish, is the port going to be a total separate, completely separate entity? Are we going to abide by the regulations of the charter, that it falls under falls under the control of the government? You know, you can't, as long as we operate haphazardly, we're going to have issues like this, because civil service can't make rules that's going to apply to you and separate for the governing employees, the government employees. So it has to be a real conversation, in my opinion, that has to take place before we move forward.
Ms. Salvin, I'll respond to that. At the last committee meeting, that same question came up when the pay raises were in question, and I believe Mr. Bartholomew was the one who asked, you know, we need to put the, so to speak, nail in the coffin and come to some kind of resolution that is the port a separate entity, or does it fall within the parish government? And I think we need to move on that and get a ruling, because this has a huge impact on our path forward. And getting back to the budget with the raises, I don't know how the commission can say that we have to give an additional 3% raise that's not even budgeted. And from both sides, PPG and the port. So
Right.
I think that's totally unacceptable, and I will not vote for another 3% raise on top of that.
Again, they did not discuss any of the details backing up the suggestion. It was, you know, that's what they suggested. Like I say, as far as the financial details, you know, they didn't really go into details on that. And again, I am sure they will be contacting you to back up their suggestion, whatever it may be. But that was the basic discussion they had last night.
Okay. I look forward to them reaching out, and if they reach out to you guys first, please, you know, keep us in the loop, and if we need to reconvene again, we will. But I think it needs to be addressed, and soon. So that's all I have. Item number 2, any comments from the public? No public. Council members here. Anything else from the board, from the administration? None? All right, we'll move to item number 3, please.
Financial report, Ms. Williams.
I just have two quick issues to talk about. Not really issues, but the port's 2017 year-end audit is underway. Our completion date is scheduled for June 30th. And we also continue to work with the internal auditor on our internal audit as well for 2015 to 2017.
Okay. Any comments, financial comments?
I would just like to ask
Ms. Salvant?
Ms. Shambrow, what is your experience with the newly auditor, you know, your interaction with them? What is your experience?
With the internal audit department, it's been well. We have not really done too many face-to-face tasks too much. It's been a lot of document requests. We have been discussing to actually do a walkthrough. We haven't got it scheduled yet. He had requested some documents, so I'm assuming he's kind of working on those right now, some new documents he requested. And we're supposed to schedule a walkthrough. We had an initial meeting we did face-to-face, but we've been doing a lot of document exchanging. We have an online system, document management system, where all of our documents are digital. So I actually set him up, and he has a username and password. So any information he requests, I basically can just drag it over into his file, and he has full access. So we've been working really well together. I think it's going really well.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because as an audit committee member, we only see the side from Mr. Duke's perspective. So I would interested in knowing the other side of it, you know,
Yeah, he's been really, like I said, a lot of documents have been exchanged. I'm really excited to see what he suggests. You know, this whole operation is fairly new. We're only 5 years in, so I'm really open to anything that will increase our productivity as far as the accounting department. And I know he comes with many, many years of experience. So I'm really eager to see and hear what he suggests in order to make the department work better.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Move to item number 4.
Yes, Mr. Durr is not here today. He's actually attending the Gulfports Association of the Americas meeting in Texas. So I'll provide you with his report. And over the past month, we worked with the assessor's office and her personnel to do dock assessments from the St. Bernard line south to Port Sulphur. There's also been a requested second trip from Port Sulphur to Venice. Our port personnel continues to attend LSU fire training on a monthly basis to make sure they're up with their credentials. Also, from a tenant side, we are continuing to monitor the drainage issues on the port property, which is dedicated for Venture Global. We're making sure that that area is properly drained. Obviously, VG needs that area to be assessed in the proper way for FERC approval. But we would like to work more with PPG on their side if they can clean the main canal going to the pumping so that they can improve the efficiency and really save PPG some and the pumping operators time and money. So we would love to see that side get completed. So we've reached out to them and asked them to see if they have time and resources to handle that issue. We are continuing to train and doing some important shipboarding with U.S. Coast Guard multiple times every week with vessels and their helo. Also, last week, PPG, along with Sandy Donald, met with Inframark, Commissioner Juneau, and Commissioner Roussel, and discussing moving the port barge in Belle Chase. I think it was a productive meeting to see how that would work. Obviously, that's a long-term play, what that could look like. So that's ongoing, but the port is willing to work however we can with PPG on that manner. And continuously, we are still monitoring the security cameras at all ferry landings 24/7 for PPG. So vessel security report is frankly ongoing.
Thanks for that update. I just have one request, and you guys can chime in, but in any chance of setting up some tours for the port committee or the full board as it relates to the port vessels, maybe a tour in the Venice Port Complex, just to, I know I would find some benefit. I've been on many boats, but it's always good to interact with the employees or the staff outside of a suit and tie, just to kind of see, their daily operations, what they're going through, and, address any concerns. But I think it'd be beneficial to the board. If
That's easy accomplished, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to welcome Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you for welcoming me, Mr. Charlie Burton. Appreciate that.
Why don't we set the month of June? That'll give y'all time to get ready. We'll give you some possible dates, and we'll set that up. That's pretty easy.
I just think it'd be beneficial. I mean, at least for me it would, and I won't speak for the other commissioners, but a helo ride would be good too. Ms. Alvin.
Yes, back to Mr. Matthews. Could you just elaborate a bit more? You mentioned on a drainage problem at VG Properties. I thought all of that was resolved.
It's ongoing, ma'am. As a port, we are making sure that everything is drained out on our property, make sure that it looks good for VG and that they are happy with it. I was told by Donald there's a drainage or clearing a canal or drainage issue on the PPG side that would help us out. And I know we've reached out to Mr. Beschel, I think his name is, on the PPG side to see if they can get out there and drain the area. I've been here for a year and I'm still trying to get used to everybody's name, so I apologize if I said the wrong person. But we've asked them to help us out as well on just the PPG property to properly drain so that it's efficient for everybody. So that's ongoing. I apologize for Mr. Durr not being here. He can explain it more in detail, but when he gets back, I'll make sure that he elaborates on any details or questions you have.
Okay.
And it's also just monitoring the growth to give it maximum drainage.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other comments or questions on item number 4? Mr. Bartholomew, before we move to the next item, I don't know if you have any specifics.
The other thing I was updating with the vessel with the last conversation we had is trying to incorporate some kind of assistance to our students and Plaquemine parents to get them preordained, I guess, towards the port and the jobs that's available at the port. Not saying they're available now, but they possibly will be. And anytime that time presents itself, that we would like to have the opportunity to employ more local people than going to get outside people to come in. And that's the only thing, the reason I'm kind of stuck on us trying to get involved in trying to get the kids in the process. And I quite understand of liabilities and everything else. Everything we do is liable. There's liability in anything we do. But it all depends on what we want to do to make it happen. And I think my overall view of this is that if we are a Plaquemine Parish government, Plaquemine Parish industry, and we are to be catered to Plaquemine Parish citizens as much as possible to keep the money within the community of Plaquemine Parish. And how we do that, get the people involved, let them know what's out there, to encourage them to be able to get in a position to want to be hired and work for the port. And it might be the best thing ever happened.
Yes, sir. Based on your suggestion, I recall the days back in Corpus Christi where we had a port education navigation day. Many ports do that, and we are looking at implementing that.
Well, I'm proud of you, General.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Rallying the troops for future war.
Okay. Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Mr. Bartholomew.
That was called Port Education and Navigational Day?
It's a port awareness. We rotate schools through the port. We have static displays. We do have to look at the liability of getting them on a boat, but we can certainly bring them down to the dock without the vessel getting underway. But your point is well taken.
I wouldn't necessarily talk about the little children be involved in getting on the vessel.
We're talking about high school.
I'm talking about seniors, adults,
Yes, sir.
18, 19 years old, those who are looking for employment there immediately. That's what I'm talking about. Those are adults, not the younger children. But the other kids can be abreast, but just like you said earlier, what you said to put in that perspective.
Commissioner, I actually had a meeting Friday with the principal of South Plaquemines High School and also with STEM.
Can't discuss that, gentlemen.
Well, I had a great discussion with the principal of South Plaquemines. You may know him. You may be familiar with him. And also Calvin Mackey with STEM NOLA. And so we had a conversation and discussing how do we have, such as Mr. Sanders discussed, how do we have opportunities to educate students, high school students, about the opportunities in the maritime industry, which doesn't necessarily mean that they would work for port government or they will work for any particular tentative hours, but a part of the maritime industry in any sector that would be. So part of it is exposure, right? That's the first thing. And so with that, we are discussing actually for next school year an opportunity to do something just like that, that incorporates the STEMs, the science, technologies, engineering and mathematics with that, and how that transports to port operations. So we're right there with you, and we're going to make it happen next school year with South Plaquemines.
Thank you, because STEM is the trend.
Correct.
It is the trend.
I'd just like to add to that. I believe that there's some discussions on the way to have an industry day here in Plaquemines soon. And I think the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry is leading that effort. And I think that's more geared on the industry side as far as oil and gas. But this could be another segue into the maritime portion of the business. So maybe you guys can reach out to Bob Thomas and, see if that would be beneficial,
We'll do.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all very much for your concerns and your support.
Supine?
Students will love it. I don't have anything else with that.
Move to next item, please.
Upcoming events, Ms. Nielsen.
Yes, just on the administrative side, the port's pleased to report that we've received a reimbursement dividend from LWCC, which is the port's workman's compensation carrier. They declared an $81 million dividend for 2017, and the port's portion of that was $10,503. So that's just a little administrative sideline. As far as upcoming events, the U.S. Maritime Administration, you hear Sandy referred to as MARAD, will be sending a team down from Washington, D.C. on May 30th for site tours and updates on our developing port.
That date, what's that date again?
May 30th.
Will we be invited to that, or?
Yes, sir.
I know those.
As always, yes, sir.
Okay. I know that's a.
Lunch will be served at the Woodland, so I'm sure you'll be there.
I hear those acronyms a lot, just like with the Corps, and anytime we have federal agencies or federal folks come in, I think it's important that as elected officials and board members, we stay in front of these guys and plead our needs and wants to them.
Absolutely, and we have been working with Lauren Brand on port development and also our association with the vessel featured by American Patriot Holdings. And the MARAD, one of their largest initiative is the inland waterway system. So she's continually asked me how she can help, and I know they have pots of money everywhere. So I said, I think the best thing that we could do is to give you a tour and tell you everything that we're doing, and then you tell me where it's applicable that we can apply for these grants. So that's what spurred this. So she and a number of her folks are coming down here on 30 May.
Okay, perfect. I'll save my comments for, I was going to talk Baptiste and South Pass, but that's a topic for another day. Just, anyway, all right. Any other events?
So that concludes my report.
Okay. Anyone attending the conference in June? Is that June, right?
It's June.
Okay. Yeah, I will not make that conference in June to Canada. I have other prior commitments. So it's a commissioner training course, but I believe it's open to all the commissioners, should they want to attend. So
I sent out another email last Thursday, so if you can make it, just let me know. I think the room rates, the room block is, the deadline's coming up, so if you'd like to attend, just let me know. The agenda is also on that email as well.
any other comments or questions from the board, audience? We'll move to the next item, please.
Approval of the April 3rd, 2018 meeting minutes.
Offer.
Offer by Mr. Bartholomew, second by Mr. Lapine. Machine is open. The minutes are approved 4-0. I will make an offer to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Comments or questions? Machine is open. And it passes 4-0, and we're adjourned at 10:28. Thank you.